Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another recent reads. Like I mentioned in my last video, I'm once again behind on these, but we're catching up. As always, I have 10 books that I'm going to talk about. I do want to mention that this round is not great. This one has 3 DNFs in it. It's rough. Just a heads up, I'm going to be talking about a lot of books I don't like, but I do have some 5 stars in here, so it won't be all bad. But let's just get right into it. First is Getting Friendly by Saxon James. If you watched my last recent reads, you know that I got these books all mixed up. In that last round, I read books 1 and 2. This is round 3. I gave this one like 4.5 stars. This one is following Leon and Augie, and Leon is a carpenter and he owns this business, and at the end of book 2, he ends up meeting Augie, and Augie is a complete and utter disaster, and he desperately wants to get into construction, but he's a mess. He's insanely accident prone, and every single time he gets onto construction sites, things go wrong. And on top of that, he is very socially awkward and nervous, and him and Leon kind of get off on the wrong foot. But Leon really needs an apprentice. He needs help. He's overworked to an extreme, and him and Augie end up striking this deal and slowly fall in love. This is an opposites attract romance. Overall, I really enjoyed this series. It is super low angst. There's no third act breakup in here. There's no real drama in here. The biggest drama in this one is that the hero's father, Augie's father, really wants Augie to not work for his competitor. That's the biggest drama. It was a really fun series. I enjoy this friend group a lot. This one was really cute. The next book that I read was Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I DNF'd this one at 45%. This has some of my favorite tropes in it, and I was so ridiculously excited to get this one. This is following a heroine who is a ghostwriter, and she ends up having a terrible one-night stand, and turns out the next book that she is writing is for this like C-list actor. Turns out that that guy was her terrible one-night stand, and the two of them have a forced proximity, sex lessons sort of romance. And I really didn't like this one at all. Not only does this have some of my favorite tropes, but this is also a Jewish romance written by a Jewish author, and I was really excited for this, and it was bad. I've never read the sex lessons trope that made me as uncomfortable as this one did. This was so clinical in its approach to sex lessons. Like, first of all, the one night stand was not funny. It was so awkward that like I just wanted to stop reading. I was like, can we get this over with? Because if you're gonna do an on-page bad one night stand, at the very least make it humorous for the reader, because this was just bad. It was just bad. Like I honestly wanted to skip it because I was so uncomfortable. And then the sex lessons, she sends him like a syllabus and she breaks out diagrams, and like it was so weird. It was not a good time at all. I did not like it. I don't know if I will ever read another book from this author, in all honesty, because I really did not like that. Next, I read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human by Kimberly Lemming. First of all, I hate the fact that this title got changed, because it doesn't even apply to the story, like at all. It was originally That Time I Drugged a Dragon, which does apply to the story, but That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human doesn't apply to the story at all. I hate that Orbit didn't put this on KU, but I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. This series is such a good time. It is a really fun, light-hearted, cozy fantasy romance type of series. We're following this heroine who, I'm not going to spoil who it is because it was kind of fun to figure it out along the way. But essentially she is trapped in this tower that is guarded by a dragon, and she's been here for like 5 years, and she has spent these last 5 years trying to make her big escape. And one day, another dragon shows up on the island, and she decides that she's going to use him to make her big escape, and she drugs him in an attempt to loosen him up. Turns out that she's actually his mate, so he was ready to take her anyways, and the two of them end up having this almost captor captive sort of weird romance because he takes her and then he's like, well, now you're my mate, so I'm not letting you go. And so he bites her because he's drugged. And it's this really ridiculous setup. And the dragon is trying to convince her that they are meant to be together. And it was a really fun romance. Their traveling romances are not always my favorite. And I think that's kind of what it took it down to a 3.5 for me. But I liked the characters a lot. The heroine is so feisty and funny, and she like really tests the hero, and he does not understand how to interact with humans at all, and it was hilarious, and I really enjoyed this one. It's a fun, good time. Then I tried to read Play Dirty by Onley James and Neve Wilder. If you have been following my channel, you know that I've been on a mission to read all of Onley James's books, and I DNF'd this one at 36%, and I am not continuing on with the series. I do not like this series. I didn't like book one. I tried reading book two, I really did, and I don't like it. This one is following these two guys who are kill for hires, and they kind of have some connection to the guy in book one who is also a kill for hire, and I just don't like this world at all. I don't like it. And these two were kind of like rivals to lovers, and it felt kind of action movie-esque. So if you're into that, you might be into this one, especially since they are always like messing with each other. And so they're like stealing each other's kills and all this stuff. But I did not care for it at all. Luckily, it's not connected in any way to Onley James's other books, like her solo written ones. It's not in that same world anyways, so don't feel too bad about not reading this one. I can still do my guide to Onley James series. And then I read Not Your Ex's Hexes by April Asher, which is a very late arc. I gave this one 3 stars. I gave book 1 in the series 3 stars as well, and so I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series after this one. It is a contemporary witchy rom-com sort of story following these 3 sisters who are all triplets, and they are kind of like a head witch family, I guess. In book 1, our heroine became the matriarch of the witches, and in this one we're following the sister who originally thought she was going to take over that role, and now that she doesn't need to do that anymore, she's trying to find herself, and she is having a romance with a half-demon who's also a veterinarian, and the two of them have this opposites attract, grumpy sunshine romance. This also has a kind of forbidden element to it because the hero is cursed to lose his soul if he ever falls in love. For me, this series, it has a lot of good elements, but it never quite hits the way that I want it to in anything. Like, it doesn't have insanely strong characters. It doesn't have a super strong plot. It doesn't lean into the humor. It doesn't go far enough into anything. And I'm just left feeling very meh about it. So 3 stars, it was fine, but I'm not going to keep reading them. But then I read Liberty Falls by Lee Jaco, and this one I gave 5 stars. I think Hollows Grove is my favorite, but this one's up there. This is the 4th of July edition in her Hollow Knight series, and all of the books in the series take place-ish around their respective holiday. The holiday element in this series is so minimal. Like, it is barely mentioned in any of these books, and so I wouldn't say that this is a series that you necessarily need to read around that holiday because it's not very prevalent at all. But one of my favorite things that this series does is each of the books has their own kink in it, and they're completely unrelated. The characters aren't related in any way. The only thing that connects them is the fact that they are holiday inspired. And this one is following this small town, and our heroine is a police officer, I believe, and her hero's a firefighter, if I'm remembering correctly. They are working this like little fair, and they end up having the same booth, and our hero and heroine have always been rivals, and they are constantly betting each other, and they have this very intense sexual chemistry between them, and the hero is into sensory deprivation, and so that is the kink in this one. And I liked it a lot. There's a Ferris wheel scene that I loved. This is definitely one of my favorites in the series. It's definitely one that you can still read during the summer months. It feels very, like I said, summer festival-y more than anything, and I like it a lot. I know that we're supposed to be getting another book, I think in August in the series, and I'm so excited. I would read endless books in this series. She could just keep it going for forever, you know, just like covering all of these ridiculous holidays since the holiday element is so minimal. I would totally read it. Let's just get the two books out of the way. If you watched my summer ween vlog, you've already seen me talk about these. I DNF'd Gothicana by Runix at 60%. This book was torture. It was utter torture to read. And I want to forget that it exists. You can go watch that vlog if you want me to talk in more detail, but I really, really disliked this book. Like, I have a visceral hatred towards this book. And then Her Vigilante by Lillian Lark, I gave 2 stars. This was a serial killer romance, and our serial killer was given a redemption arc that was just not what I was there for. And so I really hated the second half of this one because I don't want my serial killer to get a redemption arc. I was here for the serial killer vibes, and you made him a family man. I'm not here for that. The last 2 books are also Saxon James books. I have the most I want to say about this other one. So The Roommate Arrangement by Saxon James was the first book in the Divorced Men's Club. I gave this 4 stars. We are following this guy who learns that his husband has been cheating on him and has been filming it for a porn site. And he ends up going through divorce, and he returns back to his hometown because he needs a fresh start. He needs to get away, and one of his friends from childhood ends up inviting him to the Divorced Men's Club, which is just some guys that are there to support each other in whatever they decide to do after their divorce. Essentially, his brother was like 2 or 3 years younger than him, and his best friend was Beau, and Beau has always had a crush on our hero. And the 2 of them end up reconnecting. Our hero had no idea that Beau ever felt that way about him. And it's kind of like a right person, wrong time. There's also a forced proximity because they are roommates, hence roommate arrangement. Beau is a writer and he's super scatterbrained. And if you have ADHD, you are going to connect with Beau so much. They're totally opposites. They are really, really cute. I loved them together a lot. And then the last book that I want to talk about is Friendly Fire by Saxon James. And I have a lot to say about this book in general. So first of all, this book is 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. I actually messaged Saxon James after I read this book just to kind of thank her about the representation that is in this book. So we are following this character who has been in a long-term relationship for the majority of his life. He met his longtime girlfriend when he was in high school, and the 2 of them had a friends to lovers romance, and they have been together almost 10 years, and everyone thinks that they're going to get married, but they keep breaking up, and he is questioning everything in his relationship because he feels like there is something wrong with him. He does not feel sexual attraction. He does not feel sexual desire towards his girlfriend, and he thinks that there is something wrong with him. At that same time, his childhood best friend moves in next door to him, and the 2 of them had this big falling out, and they are kind of adversaries at this point. When our hero and his girlfriend end up breaking up for the final time, he goes to this friend and starts confiding in him about all of these feelings that he has, and he starts learning about his asexuality. And him and this childhood friend end up reconnecting and reforming their friendship, and he really helps him work through his identity crisis and figure out that he's not broken, that there is not anything wrong with him, and that it is okay to not feel the things that he thinks that he should feel. The 2 of them end up forming this really great relationship, and as they get closer, our hero, Rafe, who is Ace, ends up forming a romance with his childhood best friend. And it goes into a lot of nuance about asexuality. And what I wanted to talk about with this one is that after I read this book, I went over to Goodreads, and there were tons of reviews from people, particularly white allosexual women, that were talking about how, quote unquote, I do not identify with this, however, the representation in this book was bad because. And the discussion that I want to have is that if you do not identify with that identity, you do not get to say whether or not the representation of that identity was good or not based on your interpretation of a definition. It's not cool. And I see this all the time. And this is geared towards the white women out there. We are the problem. If you don't identify with something, you can say that you didn't enjoy the representation. You can say that you didn't enjoy the story. You do not get to say whether or not that representation is accurate if you do not know. If you do not have firsthand experience, you do not get to comment on it. Even if you think that you are close enough to it or understand it enough, you do not get to comment on its validity or authenticity if it is not yours. And so many of the comments were made because Rafe, while he doesn't feel this intense draw to participate and act on any sort of sexual attraction, he is not sex adverse. He just doesn't ever feel drawn to do it. And his partner is allosexual, and he realizes that his partner is, his love language is touch. While Rafe doesn't necessarily desire a sexual relationship, he does desire an intimate one. And so he participates in a physical relationship with his partner because it is something that brings him closer to his partner. And there is a sentence in here that will live in my heart rent-free for the rest of my life. After the first time that he has sex with his partner, he says that he liked it, he enjoyed it, in fact, he loved it, but if left to his own devices, he would never do it again. He's like, my life would still be okay if I never did this thing again. And so many people were like, well, his partner shouldn't force him into it. He wasn't being forced into it, okay? Like, he wasn't. It was something that he chose to do for his relationship, and it is not an uncommon thing. That is a very valid thing to do in your relationship, and it doesn't make him less ace, and it doesn't invalidate his aceness, and it wasn't bad representation of ace. Instead, what this did is it pushed the boundaries of what allo people see asexuality as. There are so many different types of asexuality. Not only is the attraction part a spectrum, but your relationship with sex is also its own separate spectrum. Those two things are totally unrelated. The amount of sex that somebody has is 100% unrelated to their asexuality. Those two things are two separate entities, and they do not rely on each other in any way. I need reviewers to stop using their base definitions and base understandings of identities and then commenting on whether or not it is valid, because all you are doing is you are pigeonholing people and forcing them into this box of what you understand that identity to be. And it was so frustrating because this is probably the closest representation to my asexual experience in a marriage with an allosexual person. And like, to see all of these allo reviewers criticize, it was so completely and utterly frustrating. While I'm talking about this in relationship to this book and asexuality, this applies all over the place. I see this for all different things. I see this for Black love romances. I see this for interracial romances. I see this for neurodiverse and chronic illness, and all of these things where there is a cis-het white woman reviewer talking about the validity of an identity that they are not a part of. And like I said, it doesn't matter how close you are to it, even if it is your significant other, your brother, your mother, whatever it is, no matter how close you are to it, if it is not your lived experience, you still don't get to talk about it. Because no matter how close you are with that person, you did not have to actually go through the experience of dealing with that thing. You did not do the mental gymnastics that it took to come to terms with that identity. While you may have seen it, you did not have to live it. There are so many other ways that you can comment on something, and if you feel a certain way about the representation, I really recommend instead going to Goodreads and scrolling through the hundreds of reviews and finding Own Voices reviews. And if that Own Voices review is either agreeing or disagreeing, you do not get to comment on it. You don't get to say, Own Voices reviewers are saying this is fine, but I feel. Your opinion does not overshadow anyone else's lived experience. I was originally going to make this its own video, but instead I decided to put it here. So if you stuck around for this entire discussion, let me know down in the comments your thoughts, opinions, if you have extra inputs that you would like to put in here. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.